is thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Think and Grow podcast with your hosts, Dr. Z
and Professor P.
Today, we have with us a very special guest who is near and dear to our heart, as we've done some real estate deals with Alex Anderson. Alex wears many hats. He's a realtor. He has rental properties. He's just a go-getter, I tell you what. Alex, tell us all about you.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thank you so much for having me on today. So, let's see a little bit about me. Where do I start? I was like letting people know that I'm the oldest of 11 children.
What?
So,
wow.
Yeah, being the oldest, I feel comes with a lot of responsibility. With that responsibility, showing my siblings that you don't necessarily have to follow life's checklist that's been laid out. I feel it's a lot easier in today's technological world to not follow the checklist that our parents and grandparents and great grandparents had, laid out for them. But yeah, my siblings right now, they're spread all throughout the United States. They're all pursuing their passions. And
wow.
I tell them, I was like, listen, you don't need to have the college, engagement, marriage, kids, everything by the time you're 30. You can pick and choose whatever you want to do. So being the eldest, I also feel that I need to lead by example, and I feel that I'm doing a pretty decent job doing that. So yeah, oldest of 11. Been living in Milwaukee my entire life. Loved traveling. By the time I was, I think, 21, I'd been to 25 countries.
Wow.
Already. And that's another thing I tell a lot of friends and family, that when you travel, you learn so much perspective of just the world, of yourself, of other people, and it really just peels away any type of prejudicial thoughts that we have of a country, of a situation, of people. And it's probably the cheapest, I guess, depending on how you travel, but I feel it's the most effective and the best bang for your buck that you can get for any type of life lessons is traveling and seeing the world through somebody else's eyes. So that's just quick synopsis. Just started getting into cycling, which I'm really excited about because I just completed a big ride in Puerto Rico. I cycled around the entire island, 3 days, 375 miles, and just met an incredible group of individuals. Like I said, I just started getting into it. We had an 81-year-old that completed the ride. He participated in the 1964 Olympics. So, I've been training 9 months for this, and I didn't have anything to compare this ride to. Because, riding with my friends here, we're all at different skill sets. And so by the time I got to Puerto Rico and was riding with all these other skilled riders, I was like, you know what? I can hang. A lot of parallels from cycling into real estate that we can touch base on a little bit through here. But yeah, I'm super excited.
Now, was it motor? Was it like off road?
So all paved road. Yeah. So I shipped my bike down to road bike, but yeah, very. From what so this was the 18th year that this ride has been going on, and what we were told is that the roads this year have been the best that they've been in life, which is amazing. We still had to navigate our way around potholes and everything else, but it was an amazing time.
So did anybody get hurt? Anybody fall?
Well, there were
I would imagine.
when we first set out day one, it was 5 a.m. So it was super dark, and we all had lights, but and it had just started raining a little bit, and trying to when you're riding with like 200 cyclists, you're all kind of like clumped in together. And one of the guys I was riding next to didn't notice a big pothole. And I mean, we're shoulder to shoulder, and all of a sudden I look over to him, and his bike is coming right up over the top, and he went over his handlebars. And that was like 30 minutes into day one. But he was okay. He ended up finishing the entire ride, and we ended up pulling the group a little bit later on that day. But yeah, so thankfully no major injuries, but you still these dang potholes, man.
Let's get into this. I think you found your wheelhouse or your sweet spot rather, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
With real estate, right? And now you've got some properties, and I think you mentioned you're looking to do some developing and just really a lot of that, the whole realm of real estate. So tell us how you got started.
I would say getting started into real estate as a realtor was a little accidental with it. I had been working for JP Morgen as an analyst in our default real estate division, and we analyzed our portfolio of properties that were in default. And our job was to determine which property we were keeping in the portfolio, which one we were going to foreclose on, and just sell to the investors. So the desire for real estate, though, started back when I was probably about 12. And on Sundays, I would sit and read the classifieds of what's for sale and look at what's sold. And I'm like, oh, there's a $2,500 duplex here and a $5,000 duplex there. Until recently, I didn't realize those were city-owned properties that, that were. And then I started learning, areas a lot better. But my dad and grandfather and my godfather, they had owned real estate, and that was something that was just always just talked about. And just in general, the thought of owning something was very, very appealing. But not only just owning something, but having somebody else pay for that asset. So that was kind of instilled in me at an early age of 12. But my great grandfather, I would say, was the one who really did it. He, back in the 70s, owned a trailer park home in Normal, Illinois. And we all have these misconceptions or preconceived as I talked about prejudices. Prejudice is just prejudging a situation. It's not really anything bad. Of trailer parks and trailer homes and double wides and everything else. But I grew up, I was blessed to know my great grandfather until I was 12 years old. And we would take the train down to Illinois, and we'd go to he lived in a double wide. So all right, I didn't really think anything of it, but he owned the park, and I think he was the original inventor of house hacking. It's like, all right, I'm going to live in a double wide, and I'm going to own this trailer park, and I'm going to have all these people just pay me to live there.
Yeah.
Which was again, it was eye-opening. I don't think I didn't truly understand it back then. But then, he eventually passed away, and I got talking with my uncle a little bit more about his experience with it, and that's just kind of what kind of piqued piqued the interest of real estate investing and having others pay for an asset. So that's really kind of how I got started. And then I just looked at other ways to leverage that knowledge. And I brought it into, JP Morgen. I saw the default side of it. And after almost 5 years of being at JP, I got comfortably miserable, and, I walked away. And by that time I had acquired, what did I have at that time? I had 2 duplexes and a condo. And when I walked away and got my real estate license, I just had friends like, hey, you'd be a good realtor. I was like, all right, I don't know what that means. Because I was self-taught. Bigger Pockets, I had stumbled across.
Right.
But at this point, it was 15 years ago, before they're this, amazing platform that it is now. They were just starting out. So I was self-taught as an investor and leveraging that website and in all the articles and the tools and the resources that they had, and bought my first one and bought a second one, and sat down with some local real estate investors and those that had owned a bunch of apartment buildings. I was like, what did you guys do? And how did you do this? And so they talked to me about home equity line of credits and how they were buying real estate, and it was just so fascinating. So left JP and got in the real estate world, and I just wanted the opportunity to build my own portfolio. And after about a month in, I was like, I gotta figure out a way to make money. So one referral led to another referral, and 9 years later, here I am as a real estate agent and helping other investors, whether they're first-time investors or seasoned investors, kind of learn the ins and outs of the industry, and then I get to meet awesome individuals like Zelda and Patrick here, and Patrick and I hit a home run on our first deal that we ever did. We can go on that a little bit later, but it's gonna want to prime the pump on that. But that's kind of how I got started. That's how I stayed in.
So you said you're a total of 11 siblings. Are any of them also involved in real estate? Do you collaborate? Because you said that they're spread out all over the country, basically.
They're not involved from an investment standpoint or from a like a business standpoint yet. I've got a brother down in Scottsdale. We've been talking the past couple of years about buying a 4-unit together, having him manage it. But he just graduated from college a couple of years ago, so I've been putting this into him like the senior year of high school. I was like, listen, man, like this is what we're going to do down here. Another sister up in the Minneapolis area, and we've talked to them about duplexes and investing. So they're all getting to the point right now where they've just bought some of their first homes. They're getting ready to make another investment in their second property. So we're getting there.
Planting some seeds, are you?
Yep, planting plenty of seeds, absolutely.
So tell us about some of for our listeners, we always want to get it to the listeners that, look, you can do this. We bring on people that have these real life success stories, but give them 1 or 2 early on struggles or things that you're like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but give us some kind of a example on how you powered through all that and persevered to get where you are today, which is extremely successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll answer that in 2 parts. One is just a general real estate agent, and one is as a real estate investor and property manager. Though I've shifted some of my property management duties to a different entity. Somebody else handles it for all my Airbnbs. But early on struggles with being a realtor was establishing my foothold in the industry. It's the average individual, the average buyer or seller out there. I mean, they know about 13 other real estate agents on average. But not everybody's full time. Not everybody is an actual realtor. They might have the license, but that doesn't make them an actual, realtor. Right. Some just help out their friends, and some do maybe 1 transaction a year. So the early struggle for me was gaining that trust, because at the end of the day, people want to work with those that they know, like, and trust. Yeah. And referrals for me, I've never cold called in 9 years. My business is 100% referral. I started out with Zillow leads, and that was just to try and establish myself in the industry by bringing in business, because like I said, I didn't cold call, so I looked at a source that was kind of a hybrid of that, and through Zillow got a couple transactions done, and then just continue to build the relationships with those clients, and again, 1 referral led to another. Networking a lot, meeting lenders and home inspectors, and just going to local investment meetups.
Yeah.
prior to getting into real estate, I co-ran one of the local real estate meetup groups, investor groups here in Milwaukee, and another couple has taken over that, and they've done an amazing job with it. But early on, I had a little bit of that base because I was investing prior to being a realtor, and so just going out there and just networking, like, hey guys, listen, like I'm in this now, like this is my full-time bread and butter. And I mean, it was tough. I took a 60% pay cut when I left my previous position to go into real estate. I was living off of the rents that of the properties that I did have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever taken a 60% pay cut of anything or 60% cut of anything. When your bills are here, but your pay is here, you gotta figure it out. I mean, so I had my lights shut off on me twice. During that first year of real estate, and I just had a big picture, and I knew that by keeping a positive attitude, not like, oh, when it rains it pours, or I can never catch a break, or whatever. Just I
like to call that the Eeyore effect, right?
Yes.
Oh dear, oh me, oh my.
I looked at it as, all right, what's next? Let's deal with this. And my vision was so much larger than those small problems at the in the beginning, that I was just able to power through it by knowing that this wasn't the end. And the best thing about real estate is that you can create anything that you want out of nothing. A colleague of mine created a $40 million development deal. I wouldn't say out of thin air. She put a lot of work into it, but she made a decision to be like, I want to go and do this. And then she did it. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of perseverance. It was a lot of research on her end, but the payoff was
phenomenal.
was
the
amazing.
One thing that I'm thinking about that I think we have similar in our journeys starting out in real estate is you don't realize this at the time, but your back was to the wall, having your, the power shut off and having these adversities. This is a huge lesson for our listeners out there that, look, you may not realize it in the moment, but that's your driver, and that's going to power you through. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I had no other way to go. Like, you can't go down. You can't just go and flip the lights back on. You have to put on the proverbial night vision and just keep on going through that darkness. And that darkness could be literally a lack of lighting, or it could be just pulling yourself out of a state of mind and just knowing that it's going to get better and believing that it's going to get better and believing in yourself. And that for me, the power of positivity, I get that from my mom. I knew that situation wasn't going to last, and I knew that it was just another step, to the top. You have to go through all of that. You might have a broken step here and there, but guess what? You got railings. There's other people that you can depend on, and there's other people that you can figure out. Like eating, I would go to Brokers Opens, and I would get the free food and take a couple extra, so I knew I could have some for dinner later. You just
nice.
You leverage the situation that you're in, and no matter how bad of a situation that you think you're in, you're not. It's all you.
But you could have gone back or gotten another job. What do you think? Wait, it was just your desire so strong you didn't even want to look at any other options, but
man, the amount of times I thought about just going and becoming like a cashier at a gas station or something was was like every day at that point. But I knew that there was always something that I could be doing that I hadn't done or hadn't tried before. And I didn't want to give up, because I didn't believe that I put my all into it. My first year, I was also building a network marketing company, along the side. And, so I would say my focus was only about 50% my first year in real estate. I sold $2.9 million my first year.
Wow.
Now I do that sometimes a month.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, what if I focused more? What if I focused more? What if I did this? What if I removed this distraction and tried this? So what kept me going early on was I didn't feel that I exhausted all of the opportunities to make myself better.
And it's interesting too because you're willing. I mean, that's the one thing. Like one thing we noticed about you, we were looking through when we first found you. I think you were wearing a costume or something like that, or you had a hat that you were wearing, and so you're very seem like you're very open and willing to put yourself into different situations, like you said, or putting yourself into opportunities. You don't have a lot of that, maybe fear. I think fear holds back a lot of people from doing kind of this maybe outlandish.
Doesn't seem like you have much of a problem with getting outside of your comfort zone, which
yeah.
most people struggle with, and that's a huge blocker for them, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where the true growth happens, is outside of that comfort zone.
Right.
And I mean, we all have self-doubt. However, I believe in what I've found personally. Self-doubt comes from the unknown. We don't know what, I doubted myself, my riding capability for this ride in Puerto Rico. I built it up so much into my head. And then I got around these riders that I was like, I'm as strong as you. Like, I'm just as good as a rider as you. And now that I see it, I know that I can do this. And starting out for the listeners that are here, and if they're starting out and if they're having those same struggles of self-doubt and I don't know if I can do this, surround yourself with somebody who did do it. And you might not learn anything from them at the time, but just the energy that you're going to get that's radiating off that individual who has done it and has completed it, and they have the confidence to tell you, like, oh, it's not that bad. I have to tell new buyers all the time, that crack in that basement wall, it's not that bad. I've seen worse. And you just, through the educational aspect of it. So for those that are out there, surround yourself with the people who are doing what you want to do. And when that happens, when you connect with them, your doubt is going to disappear because they have these answers that you built up in your mind. It's just a false sense of understanding of what the true reality is.
That's an excellent point, because I remember back when I first got started with the house flipping stuff, and my coaches were like, hey, you gotta learn how to network. And as I started talking to people, I started meeting everybody that was involved, like attorneys and title company people and private money lenders and all these different people. And it really gives you a sense, an idea of what this all takes. And you just pick up so much and learn so much, and it carries you forward.
Well, I mean, Patrick, our first flip was $100,000 profit.
Right.
And you had to trust me. I mean, first off, at that time you barely knew me.
Right.
But you had to trust. You had to trust that I knew that area and I knew that property and I knew the potential of it. And you were a little standoffish at first, which is a great quality of you, because it helps me and it helps others, really reassess the situation. But you're like, Alex, I'm going to trust you with this. Here you go. And it was amazing. And
so what happened on that, what people don't realize, what I've learned to do, this is another great thing that you can pick up. What I learned early on, Alex, is, when people, what they're doing, if you pay attention, and they say one thing and then their actions are different, you know, all that stuff. When we were going through the process and you were showing me, hey, I got this opportunity, that one, and I was analyzing you the whole way. And that I do that with everybody. They're getting interviewed and we're just having a conversation. They don't even know that they're being interviewed or being vetted out or, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what is it that gives you that confidence? You mentioned your mom kind of having that positive mental attitude, and you kind of inherited that from her. Were there other mentors, or coaches or people in your life who kind of poured that into you?
Growing up, I came from a family of, essentially, entrepreneurs. My great grandfather had the trailer home park. My grandfather owned bars and service stations. My uncles all had their own little, whether it was carpentry or painting. My dad was in sales, and just seeing him just go and do it and make things happen. And what I learned through just observing is that you can almost will yourself into that, that point of positivity, but it was more so observing what could be an alternative. We all have a choice. We can look at it and the whole glass half empty, glass half full. I'm just thirsty, so I'm gonna drink it regardless of the level that it's at. It really, for me, I believe it comes down to the level of consumption that you are comfortable with, and looking at a situation, even if there might be some source of negativity or some source of apprehension, latching on to that one little piece that and that you are familiar with can be that big stepping stone and that building block to help you overcome any type of self-doubt and any type of feeling of adversity or feeling of that it's not going to work or feeling of negativity. Identifying just the slightest sliver of positive in a situation can really help build on that and give you that confidence so that you can go and attack whatever it is that you're looking to achieve.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, kind of building off of what you know to propel you forward into that unknown.
Yeah, and that's and that's what I had, and that's what I did with some early on mentors. When I first got into real estate, I reached out to some of the families that own the most amount of apartment buildings, and I asked them. I said, other than like word of mouth, how do you find these properties, and who do you use to do the deals, and how do you do the deals? And they were more than willing to just share their knowledge because they want others to win as well.
Right.
And that helped me early on because I was getting so much advice from so many different players in the industry, from those that owned 2,000 apartment units to those that like you, Zelda, and Patrick, that were getting into house flipping, and your knowledge of how you got there.
Yeah.
And dealing with just even my own clients who are, who've been in the industry a lot more than me, and they've just all helped because they all have a unique perspective. And I go back to perspective again, but they all have a unique perspective. My first, you could say, pseudo mentor, I was working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I was sharing with this gentleman. They own 2,000 apartment units all throughout Milwaukee. And I was like, I want to get a duplex. They're like, well, your first one should really be a 12 unit.
Wow.
was like,
Huh?
okay. He's like, well, yeah, because with a 12 unit, you can mitigate risk a lot better than you can with a duplex. If
Wow.
you have one vacancy in a duplex, you're at a 50% capacity. But if you have one vacancy in a 12 unit, you're only at 1/12
Yeah.
of that vacancy, and you still have 11 other units that can pay for your note. And I was like, okay, well, in theory, yes, that's great, but I'm just starting out.
Yeah.
I don't have the money for a 12 unit, which was the wrong mentality to have,
Right.
because the money is easy to find. It's the deals that are the challenging part to find, because when you have money, people are going to come at you for everything.
Yep.
Oh, invest in this business, or I want to open up this restaurant, or I got this idea, or everybody has an idea of what to do with your money.
Yeah.
So, and I was 22, 23 years old at that time, but had I gone out there and found a 12 unit, pitched, somebody else and say, hey, listen, let's go in 50-50. I'll run it, or 60-40, 70-30. I'll take 30%, but I'll run it all just so I can get the experience. That for me was probably the best piece of advice, because it really opened up my mind to understand early on what risk mitigation was in real estate.
Yeah, and I think if
myself with people like that.
Yeah, and like in this case with this mentor that you were talking with, get a 12 unit. You're like, holy crap, I get a 12 unit. Now what do I do? But when you start to think about, and that's the beauty of real estate, is the collaboration.
Yeah.
If you would have got the 12 unit and found somebody to partner with that had the experience, so simply you getting the 12 unit is the tough part. Finding somebody with the money to fund it and somebody to manage it and these things. When you start thinking outside the box, everything changes.
Well,
right?
and also spoken from somebody who had a 12
Yeah.
Yeah.
that turned into an alligator.
Yeah.
So management, people love real estate, but there is a management component. It is not completely passive. So people understand that.
Right. And, talking about that mentorship, and what we had touched on a little bit earlier in the program was, if you're only surrounding yourself with duplex owners and duplex investors, they might not know anything about a 12 unit. But then all of a sudden you have somebody with a 12 unit that pushes it on you, and you think it's unattainable, and they just break it down to the point of where you can understand that how attainable it really is.
Yeah.
Your mind's going to be blown.
Right.
Because what you thought was unachievable, they just showed you how it was achievable. And you're like, oh, well, that's not so scary anymore.
Yeah.
And fear dissolves with knowledge.
Yeah.
That's true.
So tell us, bring us up to date currently. Give us an idea of some of the things the irons you got in the fire there, and what life is like now that so a lot of people, they hit that stride, right, where they become successful. What are some of the challenges that come with that, and kind of give us an idea of what you got going, some of the challenges, and then where you're heading.
Fast forward 9 years that I've been in real estate. My portfolio is up to 18 doors.
Nice.
It was 19, but I just sold one yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Or what is it? I sold it Monday. So I have 18 doors, and I was with a brokerage, and I'm now with a new firm after 9 years, and to build a team and to grow and to collaborate. And now I have 6 agents that work. We all work together, under my team, the collaboration with Compass. Most of my rental properties now are Airbnb, so I pivoted into the short-term rental market that way. And the challenges that come with wanting to be selfish and build my own personal portfolio, to the responsibility that I have to my clients to help them achieve their real estate dreams,
Mm.
to the needs of new agents that are looking for that mentorship and guidance, to trying to have a life, that I can provide myself, my girlfriend, who, is just an amazing, amazing supporter of what I do. Really comes down to the biggest challenge that I have is focus.
Is what?
Focus.
Oh.
Okay. I was going to say, be great if you could probably clone yourself too, right? Because if you had a couple, three of you, then you could be working with all these different people at once.
My business partner is amazing, and he really is a second individual of myself. And the reason that I said my biggest challenge is focus is I want to get into development. I'm working on a deal right now. It's 56 units. It's the biggest project that I've ever spearheaded. I'm raising $5 million. So if anybody's listening, you have $5 million, we can go in on this equity deal together. But the challenge with the focus is, one, not putting all your eggs in one basket, but how you can still maintain the consistency, throughout the day. And that's as I've continued to grow in the real estate industry, as a realtor and helping out clients, my desires are also to continue to build that portfolio, to have that passive income, so that I can focus on my clients a lot more, because in real estate, we're only as good as our last sale. Right. So we're constantly hunting, we're constantly eating. Until we get to that point where you have a passive stream of revenue through real estate. I don't know any other better business out there, but through real estate, that you have that coming in, that you can then give that focus back to, the clients. Yeah. So that for me is where we're at. We're building a team. We're going through the growing pains of that. My business partner's like, hey, let's not grow until we figure out our systems, we figure out our process flows, we figure out what we're gonna do. And then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I just hired 6 new people. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know, but let's all learn together. So I'm building a team, and we're learning about collaboration and working together. I'm looking to be more aggressive at building my real estate portfolio, because I feel that even though I've grown up to 18 doors, I feel that I should be at 1,800 at this point.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then also just working with our wonderful sellers and our wonderful buyers and our clients in general that are out there. So we have a lot going. There's so much that you can do in real estate. A good friend of mine lost his job and decided to get into industrial, and now he has a couple million square feet of industrial real estate that he learned by following somebody else. He learned through partnering, and he grew, and he just took off. And again, going back to the focus, is there's so much niche markets in real estate. There's multifamily, there's self-storage, there's assisted living, there's affordable housing, there's retail, there's office, there's industrial. And as much as I want to be in every single one of those markets, so where I'm at now is I'm picking a couple of those sub-markets to just focus in, while continuing to help my clients find houses.
And then, are you looking to grow your own brokerage or franchise, or like more on the sales side, I guess?
Yeah, when I partnered with Compass Real Estate, I looked at them as a hybrid of starting my own brokerage, but then starting your own brokerage. My biggest fear was finding out what's the best copy machine. Honestly, in printer. What I love about Compass right now is that they offer that ability to be autonomous and to really feel like I am running my own brokerage, but having the support of a $100+ million company and the technology, behind it. So they give us the systems, they give us the back end, they give us a great search platform, and we can still treat this, like a franchise. And if I wanted to open up in another state, I could. So right now, I don't really have a desire to go out on my own. I just have my own brokerage, because it's all about risk mitigation, and being with another brokerage allows me to mitigate the risk while still focusing on those result producing activities that make us all a lot of money.
Right. And if they're going to provide you with a lot of the things that would come with you owning your own brokerage, then why go take on all that risk? And then, your time is going to change because now you're the broker and you're this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I tried to buy an 8 unit all by myself, and I didn't have the down payment money in time. So now I don't have that 8 unit. That's how I feel going out on my own. Whereas if I'd have partnered with somebody,
right,
I'd had at least 50% of an incredible 8 unit. That, so
yeah, nothing of nothing is
collaborate.
Still
Collaborate without ego is what we talk about a lot. And my ego of wanting to own 100% got in the way. So now I own 100% of nothing.
Well, we're running out of time here. You said you got a call here shortly. So what do you want to end with to leave some, some wisdom for our listeners so that they can go, wow, and that'll motivate them to really get off of it, get off that fence and get out there and take action.
No matter where you are, that's where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that ambiguous comment is you can, just with a simple thought, you can change whatever situation you want by just learning about what it is you want to do, surrounding yourself with the right people who have done it before, and just picking up and creating. Real estate, you can create something out of nothing. Like I had mentioned earlier in the program, my colleague sought out a development, partnered with the developer, and sold an incredible complex, $40+ million build. And she did it with just an idea and just a desire. And think big. Know that no matter where you are, it's not where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
And our days and our situations can change because we have the ability to do that. So no matter where you are, that's where you're at. And if you want to be somewhere, keep listening to Professor P, Dr. Z, and they have the tools for you to change your situation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alex. It was so great to hear from you, and thank you for the
always
gems
a pleasure.
of wisdom.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about focus, knowing what you want, and then focus on achieving that. So that was awesome. Love that.
All right. Well, we're going to leave it there.
So much.
Okay. It was so great to have you on. We're going to leave it there. And as always, thank you in advance.
Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. We're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah.